Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kailin and I post new videos every single Saturday with a few sprinkled in between. And I post videos mainly about eating disorder recovery and intuitive eating. So if that's something that you're interested in, I would love for you to click onto that subscribe button and become part of our little family. To say that I'm nervous for this video is an understatement. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my top 10 insecurities and how I kind of live with them and am finally at peace with all of them. The thing about insecurities is that we're not born with them. They're created. Normally it's because people have commented on our bodies or not commented, or we see things in the media that makes us feel like there's something wrong with our bodies. So today we're going to talk about insecurity. I'm going to show you these body parts that I'm insecure with, and that can be nerve-wracking. But I also know that there are so many people on my page who love me and care for me and would never say anything to hurt me. So I'm definitely putting myself out there with this video, but might as well. I'm going to start off with some insecurities that aren't too bad and kind of dive into the deeper ones as we continue on with this video. I hope that this video gives you some kind of courage to embrace your own insecurities, to not hide from them, and kind of face them head on. Let's start off simple. I'm kind of going from head to toe actually with my first insecurity, which is my hair. My hair is actually pretty thin, and with a specific hairstyle, it's kind of hard to see, but I do have a widow's peak. If you're unfamiliar with what a widow's peak is, I'm gonna put a couple of photos on the screen, and I'm also gonna show you my own. But it's basically where the hair comes down in the middle of your forehead, creating this kind of V. Almost like your head is like a little bit heart-shaped. You can kind of see it right here, right? My hair is a lot further down on my forehead. And this was something that I was never insecure about until people brought it up when I was a child. That's going to be a theme with several of these insecurities. But every time somebody commented on my widow's peak, it made me feel like it almost shouldn't be there. It kind of created this shame around my hair, and saying it out loud, I realized how ridiculous that sounds, but it's something that I carried for several years. I would try to hide my widow's peak. I got bangs. And the truth is that nobody noticed it as much as I did. And whenever I Googled widow's peak when I was younger, the top articles that come up are basically how to hide your widow's peak, how to make it less noticeable. When in reality, 35% of the population have a widow's peak. So why should 35% of the population try to hide something so natural just because they're not the majority? Over the years, I've really come to love my hair, even though it's thinner, even though I have a widow's peak. I love the color, I love the length, I love how healthy and strong it is. And also realize that what I used to view as a flaw or as a weakness actually isn't that. It's just hair. It's not more complicated than that. The next insecurity we are going to talk about is my uneven smile / my little baby teeth. I have a little vampire tooth on this side and a tiny little tooth on this side. And for the longest time, especially in high school and when I went to university, I never wore lipstick. Ever, because I was so afraid to draw attention to my teeth. I didn't want anybody to look at them or to comment on them, and that's because people would always point out my little sharp canine tooth in elementary school, or they would always comment about how this one tooth on this specific side of my face was so much smaller than the rest of my teeth. And again, when people continuously comment on things, you internalize it, and it kind of makes you feel wrong for existing the way that you do, for existing differently than other people. But the thing is that we're not all meant to look the same. And now I don't wear lipstick too frequently, but I do wear it because I know that I have the option to if I want to. And now I think my little fang is adorable. I really, really, really like it. It makes me unique, and it also brings me like one step closer to potentially being cast in like a vampire movie or something, you know? And the thing about my smile is that I know it makes a lot of people feel very welcomed on my channel and feel a warm, fuzzy feeling. So how can that possibly be a bad thing? The next thing we are going to talk about is my cleft chin, or as my classmates used to say, my butt chin. I don't know who came up with that term, but it definitely made 7-year-old me extremely self-conscious, thinking that I had a butt on my face. And it made me so self-conscious to the point where I would hide my face in photos. I would go like this, I would go like this, and sometimes I still catch myself doing it, and I'm gonna be 25 in December. Insecurities cause you to shy away and want to hide from the world. I spent so much of my time making myself smaller because I thought it would make other people more comfortable. But you don't owe anybody comfort. And the thing with my chin is that I get this from my father. And I think that that's a beautiful trait. To have bits and pieces of yourself that is made up from 2 other individuals and their parents and then your great-grandparents, etc., etc. And the thing is that one day I can give this feature to one of my children. And I don't think I would look at my child and think that any of their features were ugly or horrifying or bad. So why would I think that about my own features? Just because somebody made me feel bad about my chin once when I was 7 doesn't mean I have to carry that sort of pain and that sort of self-consciousness for the rest of my life. I'm done hiding. All right, as I mentioned, we're working down the body, and next up, we've got my broad shoulders because, honey, I've got broad shoulders. And everyone in my high school let me know that, especially at the beginning of my high school years before my eating disorder got a lot worse. I was told by many people that I should go on the rugby team and that I should go play with the boys because I kind of had a more masculine build, whatever that means. And as a young girl who thought that her value lied in being small and in being fragile, hearing that from other people really destroyed me at the time. Because I thought taking up space was one of the worst things that I could do, which just is bullshit. It's not true. And I took these comments that were made about my body, I internalized them, and for the rest of my teenage years, I tried to hide my body. Not really because I was ashamed of what I looked like, but instead because I wanted people to just stop commenting on it. So I hid under hoodies and long sleeves and coats and jackets, just always trying to shield myself from everybody else. My body never really felt like my own. I felt foreign in my body because it was constantly changing. And then I would also have people give me their opinions on my body, unsolicited, which also just made me, as a young girl, very, very conflicted, confused, frustrated. But I know that I'm strong. I know that I have beautiful, strong shoulders. And when did being strong become a bad thing? I can't change my bone structure, and society shouldn't make me want to. Somebody profits off of my insecurities. Always, whether that's the beauty industry, the diet industry, somebody's always making money. So if I embrace my insecurities instead of seeking treatment or trying to fix them, then that's a win for me because nobody is profiting off of making me feel badly about my body. The next thing that we are going to be talking about are my boobs. Yes, you heard me, my breasts. I developed up here in the upstairs very, very quickly when I was a child. I don't know, I got my period in like grade 5 and my boobs started coming in. I was probably an A or B cup when I was around 10 or 11 years old, and people commented, okay, they did. But now I'm older, my boobs are bigger, gravity has taken its toll, and they're a bit saggy, you know, it happens. But there is one comment that made me super insecure about my chest. I was 15 years old and I was dating one of my first boyfriends, if not my very first boyfriend. You know, young love, stupid love. I don't really count it, but he was a good guy. He was a sweet boy. But I started dating him. He didn't go to the same school that I did, but I knew many, many people from the school that he went to as well. And another girl who I had actually known since I was 5 years old. We went to elementary school together. We had been friends up until I started dating this guy, even though I hadn't spoken to her in quite a while. Just because we went to different high schools, you know, we drifted apart. Elementary school is not that serious anyway. And again, I'm 15, we're just kids. But I found out, because this girl liked my boyfriend at the time, she decided to be a bit, I guess, jealous and spiteful and kind of mean. And she began telling everybody at her school how she couldn't believe he would date me because I was so ugly and because I had saggy boobs. And that comment seems just, really? Why would she say that? That sounds so dumb. But when I found out that she had been saying that, I became so self-conscious. I was just starting to grow into this body finally. And I already felt uncomfortable with everything. You know, puberty is just such an awkward time. So to have somebody blatantly criticize something that I was already a bit self-conscious about really felt like a stab in the chest, literally. And as cheesy as this is going to sound, something that I realize now is that my heart, which is beneath my chest, is a heck of a lot more beautiful than hers ever was at that point in time. I hope and pray that she has grown from that time in her life and that she's a better person now. So I'm not going to make judgments about who she is right now. But back then, I know that my heart was in a much better place. I like them, and that's all that matters. And I know that my heart is always in the right place. The next insecurity might seem a little bit strange, but it was a big insecurity of mine. And it was my hands. My hands are big, or they're a bit bigger or longer than average. And one of my ex-best friends from high school actually commented, she said this verbatim, that my hands were my worst feature, my ugliest feature. Thinking about that now just kind of makes me laugh, but it stuck with me for a really long time. And I always kind of questioned if she was right, like if my hands were ugly, what even makes good hands, right? It sounds really ridiculous when we talk about it out loud. But the thing is, my hands allow me to do so much, to write, to create, you know, to make content and set up the camera and the lighting and everything like that, to cook, which is like primarily what my channel is about, cooking and food, to give people back rubs and wrap presents for my friends and family. They help me apply makeup and do my hair. And how can I hate something that is just so damn useful? We don't have a lot of time on this earth, and I don't want to waste my time contemplating on whether or not my hands are pretty, because it's just a waste of time in my opinion. So the next thing that we are going to talk about, which I think many people can relate to, is my stomach. It's always been one of my biggest insecurities and something that I've always struggled with, even when I was absolutely just a tiny little tot. And I think that the reason for this is definitely the media. Even now, it's very rare to see diverse bodies. But back then, when I was even in university or high school, influencers were always superposed. They always used Photoshop. They never showed anything that was deemed as a flaw. And magazines were so airbrushed. And so I didn't see the representation that I needed to see. So I decided to create it instead. And along the way, as I was sharing my journey with body acceptance and weight gain, etc., I began to see a lot of bodies that looked like mine. And then I also began to see a lot of bodies that were vastly different. And I can't tell you how refreshing it is to not see the same body over and over and over again. Because when we see the same body repeatedly, it just enforces this idea that that is what a body is meant to look like. And then if you don't look like that body, then is there something wrong with you? Bodies aren't meant to look the same. And stomachs are also meant to have fat on them, period. They're meant to change over time. And I will love myself if my stomach shrinks, and I will also love myself if my stomach grows. The thing is, one day I hope that I will be able to carry a child in this beautiful stomach of mine. And I pray that my child will feel safe and warm and comforted inside of me, whatever this looks like. And that brings me a lot of comfort. The next insecurity we are going to talk about is cellulite. And this comes down to societal standards again, because y'all, 90% of women have cellulite. 90%. Did you hear that? 90%. And why are we ashamed of this? If it's natural and we all have it. Oh, what's that? Yes, the beauty industry. Some man in the 20th century discovered that he could profit off of women's insecurity. And he began to shit talk women's bodies. Magazines started to have these ads about how to get rid of cellulite, etc. And then, seeing this everywhere, hearing it everywhere, women began to doubt their own natural bodies. If you look at Renaissance paintings, you will see beautiful women with cellulite. And those women were meant to signify beauty, and they still had cellulite. So whenever I doubt myself or my body or what my body looks like, I tell myself I am a fucking beautiful piece of artwork. I am. Sticking with the legs, we are going to move on to the 9th insecurity, which are my thighs. My thighs are thick as hell. They are thick. Jeans, the enemy. And they've always been thick, always. Literally since I was a child, I kind of had these tree trunk-esque legs. Another nickname that was given to me as a child. It's fun, isn't it? How we just discuss children's bodies openly. It's really fucked up. And this was a big insecurity of mine because not only are my thighs kind of covered in scars and discoloration, but their size was something that I struggled with for a really long time, especially when this kind of beauty standard for women was to have small, dainty legs. And to say I don't still struggle some days would be a lie, because some days I definitely do. But a body doesn't make a woman. Women come in many different shapes and sizes, all of them equally beautiful. And if we're being honest, I am so privileged to be able to do what I do. I have an able body that brings me to point A to point B. My legs are also the reason I was able to play college level volleyball. And because I played volleyball, I was able to meet my now partner. And because I was with my partner, we were able to get Tabasco together. I already had Harley before we met. And if all of that didn't happen, then I probably wouldn't be here today doing this, sitting down and creating content. And of course, it's not just because of my legs, but it definitely played a part in getting me to where I am right now. So how can I not be grateful for that? And the last insecurity that I am going to show you and talk to you about today are my stretch marks. And stretch marks are so villainized in our society. It drives me crazy because they're so beautiful, right? Like, when did growth or growing become a bad thing? And how I like to look at this is that not everybody gets the privilege to grow or even live a long life. And to me, stretch marks are a sign of life being lived, of growth, of potential. And I will never stop myself from showing how much I've grown, from showing how beautiful my stretch marks are. I actually received one of my favorite comments on Instagram, I think it was sometime last week, where somebody mentioned that my stretch marks looked almost as if angels or somebody had just left their handprints on my body. And I think that that was just so beautiful, and now every time I see them, that's what I think about. And you don't need a reason to have stretch marks. You don't need to have had children. You don't need to have done anything. You're allowed to just live in the body that you currently reside in without explaining why you have certain marks on your body. And how I've learned to embrace my insecurity is to be empathetic towards myself. Be compassionate, be kind. You are a person too, and you deserve just as much respect and love as anybody else. And also notice how you feel when you speak negatively to yourself. It never feels good. So what's the point of doing it? I want everybody watching this video to understand that you are completely wonderfully made. No matter what you look like, no matter what your insecurities are, you're wonderful and perfect. Trust yourself that there is nothing wrong with you. Society makes us feel like we should change every bit and part of ourselves until we're this brand new person, and you don't have to do that. I love you, and I want to thank all of you again for giving me this platform to be able to share my insecurities, to be able to talk about them in a safe place. I know that no matter what video I make, there's always going to be somebody out there who doesn't like it, who doesn't like me, who comments something that hurts my feelings. But I know that I also help people, and that will always overshadow any of the hate that I can possibly get. So I hope everybody knows how grateful I am for them. Anyway, I'm not gonna get too sappy on you, but that is essentially the video. I hope that seeing me work through my insecurities, display them, talk about them, where they came from and how I've worked through them, can give you some insight on how you can work through your own. If you have any questions, or if you want to talk about your insecurities and how you've overcome them, please make sure to leave a kind comment down below. And I really hope to see you in my next video. Make sure to do something kind for yourself today, okay? Okay. Bye guys.